there is a new top quarterback in the transfer portal, and a lot of people want the Buffs to make a move.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I'm your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcast. So thank you guys for making me your first listen of the day. Like I said, we're free and available. So let's talk about it. I think this is the biggest story in college football right now because, one, no one saw it coming. Two, it's sort of the state of the sport or the state of college athletics as a whole. And three, it's a pretty big name. And so if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, Tennessee quarterback, and I had to write out the pronunciation, Nico Iamaleava is in the transfer portal. And there's a lot of reasons why. For one, the Vols paid him $2.5 million around there this past year. And so he goes to them in the winter portal and back now and says, hey, him and his camp, they go, hey, we want to be paid $4 million. He just took you to the playoff, led you to a 10-3 season, and he should be one of the best quarterbacks in college football. And so they were like, we're going to tell this to the team right before their spring game, which was on Saturday. And then they're also telling this to the program right before the transfer portal opens, which is on Wednesday. So they're kind of forcing Tennessee's hand. Well, Tennessee said, you know what? Toodles, good riddance. We are fine without you, right? We will figure out how to survive without you. Now, Nico is a former 5-star quarterback. He was the number 2 ranked quarterback in the class with Arch Manning. And there's a lot of questions as to where he will end up. And let me explain why. For starters, he can't transfer to an SEC program right now unless he's okay with sitting out for a year because the SEC prohibits players to transfer within the conference during the spring window. Second, here's where it also gets complicated. Just about every program in the country, for the most part, went into the winter portal and got a quarterback, right? And if they didn't, they already had a quarterback. So you look at like Ohio State, right? They had Julian Sayin, they had Tavian St. Clair come in. Texas has Arch Manning ready and waiting. Notre Dame had C.J. Carr, Steve Angeli, and Mincy, I believe is his last name, ready and waiting. Other programs like USC, Jaden Maiava. They also went and got Hassan Longstreet. You look at Florida, they have DJ Lag. Like everyone, for the most part, either went out and got a quarterback. Colorado, Caden Salter, Julian Lewis. They went out and got a quarterback, or they had one already and waiting. So his options are very, very limited. And I wrote this story for Athlon yesterday because I was told he was going to go into the portal by someone I trusted. And so I pump out a story, 3 programs that made sense to me, and I threw out USC, Notre Dame, and North Carolina. USC is reportedly not interested. Notre Dame, not interested. North Carolina is kind of the wild card in all of this, and they're still viewed as the wild card, and that's kind of my in-house favorite to where he will end up. But another program that I keep seeing, and people kept asking me about, I got multiple messages about this, should Colorado make a move for him? And I was like, okay, this is an interesting query because Colorado goes out and gets Caden Salter. They go out and they had Julian Lewis, who's the highest ranked quarterback commit in program history. Do they make a move for Nico? And for a second, I was like, maybe. And then if I was Coach Prime, would I want to make a move for this guy? And I'll give you 3 reasons why I would not, right? And Colorado, I think, is fine at quarterback. I think Caden Salter is a dynamic athlete. I think he's going to win the job. I think he brings a lot to the table. And I think Julian Lewis has one of the brightest futures in college football as a quarterback prospect. So I think they're set. Had Nico entered the portal in winter and had Colorado not taken Caden Salter, maybe they take him. But again, I think they're set at quarterback. So there's reason number 1. Reason number 2, I don't think Nico's that good, quite frankly. I think he's a very solid quarterback. I think he's had some moments, but the best way to sort of compare him is using I like to use PFF for certain things as a guide or as a gauge. And Caden Salter was graded out as the 56th best quarterback in college football this past season with an 82 grade overall. Now, keep in mind, this was a down year for Caden Salter, right? He had a better season in 2023 than he did this past year, and he was still graded out as one of the top quarterbacks in the country. Nico graded out as the 86th best quarterback in the country, according to PFF. And he did that with some pretty solid weapons around him, a strong run game supporting him, and he still wasn't that upper tier quarterback that I think everyone expected him to be. Now, here's some of the quarterbacks, just for reference, who ranked better or around him, right? Chandler Morris at North Texas ranked better than him. Miller Moss, who was benched at USC, had a higher grade than him. Sawyer Robinson at Baylor was right below him. Jalen Daniels at Kansas had a generationally bad year and was below him as well. So it's one of those things where it's like, I don't think Nico is worth $4 million. I don't think he's as good as Caden Salter, or at least I wouldn't take him over Caden Salter right now. Caden Salter's been in the system for the entire spring process. And it's like, why would you throw that away? So for that reason, I don't think I would do it, right? You just simply don't need to. I think Caden Salter right now is more experienced and more proven in a way than Nico Iamaleava is. Third reason, and this is what it comes down to for a lot of these things, Nico wants $4 million. Now, I think his demand of $4 million is going to be really hard to come by, because if you think of all the programs who are willing to spend big money, right? Majority of them are in the SEC, and he can't go there unless he's willing to sit out a year. Miami would be one, but they got Carson Beck, right? Ohio State would be one, but they have Julian Sayin, Tavian St. Clair, Lincoln Kingholt. So they have 3 5-star guys that they're sort of figuring things out with. Notre Dame has built their program off of transfer quarterbacks under Marcus Freeman, really. And I just don't see it there. And so it's like, okay, his options are limited right now. Like, a lot of people are linking him to North Carolina and UCLA. And North Carolina makes sense to me. UCLA, I don't think they could afford his $4 million. And so I think he sort of burnt a lot of bridges. I think he's expensive. I think he burnt a lot of bridges, and I don't think he's worth the hype right now. Now, if he goes out this next year and balls out, sure, maybe it's like, okay, well, we were wrong. But from what I saw from Nico this past year compared to what I saw from Caden Salter in 2023, because that's his ceiling, right? That's arguably what we've seen as his ceiling so far. He could reach another level in Boulder with better weapons and more experience. But Caden Salter's ceiling is leading a team to a perfect regular season record, leading them to a New Year's Six bowl game. They would have made the playoff had the playoff been 12 teams. And he's a more dynamic athlete, and I think there's going to be a lot of improvement, right? His worst year of the two was still somewhat better statistically than Nico's only year as a starter. And I just don't feel like I would have tested the market or pushed the market this hard if I was Nico. I probably would have. I don't know. I probably wouldn't have. So for those asking, should the Buffs make a move? Absolutely not, right? I don't think Nico's worth the money. I don't think he's as good as a lot of people are valuing him as. And I also think there's something to be said about him just sort of abandoning his team. I know that's kind of like a forgotten thing these days in college football, where it's just like, hey, go get your bread, right? Well, I think abandoning your team before the spring game and holding them hostage and getting caught by other programs, like the report out there is that Oregon's Dan Lanning was like, hey, Josh, by the way, Nico's camp is hitting us up and selling him to us, right? I just think that's not a guy I'd want. I don't think Coach Prime would ever want that in a million years. And it's one of those things where I hope the kid finds his landing spot. I hope this doesn't impact his career negatively. But I think he may have went about this the wrong way. When we come back, we're going to be talking about Colorado's latest transfer portal edition. I love it, and I think it bolsters a position that Colorado's been having some major issues with. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now, Taxes is matching up with a TurboTax expert who could do your taxes as soon as today, an expert who gives you your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy, all so you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. This is Taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only on iOS mobile app. See guaranteed details at turbotax.com/guarantees. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, so make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you don't miss out on a moment of the coverage. Let's talk about it. We just finished talking about why I don't think Nico Iamaleava is a good fit for the Buffs. In short, he's asking for $4 million, right? He wants $4 million. He quit on his team, and I don't think he's that good. I think Caden Salter is a more proven quarterback, a better quarterback, honestly, and quite frankly, he's probably a lot cheaper than $4 million, right? That is the highest mark in college football on an annual basis, I believe, is set by Deion Mensa. And that is, I think Deion Mensa is way better than Nico, right? So I think Colorado is totally fine with what they got. They got Caden, they got Julian Lewis, that is. And they also got a new offensive lineman to protect those guys. So what a transition that was by me. A little pat on the back for that. The Buffs added offensive line transfer from Memphis, Xavier Hill. He played a team-high 916 snaps during the 2024 season, and he graded out as the team's best player, that Memphis' best player, was a first-team American Conference player, had a pass blocking grade of 86.4, run blocking grade of 81.6, and was only penalized 3 times in 13 games. He started his career at LSU in 2020, played in 6 games over there, in 3 seasons there, and then he transferred to Memphis and just figured it out, right? So now Colorado has, I think this is probably my favorite Colorado offensive line addition in Coach Prime's 3 years, really, outside of Jordan Seaton. Second most exciting for me, because realistically, he's proven at a higher level of football, of college football. Nice size. I think a lot of people said Colorado was too small, right? It's one of those things where it's like, oh, they're so tiny. He is not tiny. 6'4", 320, 318. Dude's massive. He's experienced. He's proven. And in an offensive line where Jordan Seaton is really the only name where I'm confidently like, that position's locked up, I love this addition, right? And so you look at what else Colorado's brought in at offensive line. Ole Miss transfer, Mana, I think it's Taimani, Xylon Chrysler from Illinois, who I think is going to be who's going to be another starter. Louisiana Tech transfer Zaire McGill, who I think could play center. He was an all-conference type of guy as well. And then Aki OG from Texas A&M. So I think they have a really solid core of linemen that could be good, right? I think centered around Jordan Seaton plus these guys, I think this Colorado line has a chance to be the best that Coach Prime has had. Now, granted, don't know if that's saying much because they've been pretty rough over the past few years. But again, Coach Prime has clearly seen the issue right here, and Colorado clearly saw a need and had a desire to go out and get this guy. Now, does this mean he's going to be a superstar for Colorado? I don't know. I think he could be, right? I think you get him working with our Colorado staff, and I think things could go right. And the part that excites me the most about him was that he was good at both pass blocking and run blocking, right? For Colorado over the past few years, it's been like you're either okay at one or you're bad at both, right? To have someone help strengthen up the run game, like say he slides in at left guard, right? I think Scott Proctor from DNVR reported that he's going to play in the interior. So he's playing left guard, right guard, most likely, unless Colorado wants him to play right tackle. We'll see. But say he's next to Seaton, and you go Seaton, Hall, and it's like, okay, now we're making some moves, right? Now we could run the ball. Hill, Xavier Hill, that is. Now we're making moves. Now we could run the ball behind one side of the line. I think that's huge, right? It also gives Colorado's quarterback, whether that's Caden, Julian, whoever it is, Ryan Staub, whatever, it gives them a little more confidence in the pocket, right? Shedeur Sanders was running for his life every single play and had to be a superhero just to make easy plays, right? The easier plays for Shedeur, he was still fighting for his life, right? Routine plays. Routine was the word I was looking for, if you were wondering like why I stumbled there. Routine plays, Shedeur Sanders was still fighting for his life. Now, I think this Colorado offense line is going to be really good. I love this addition. I still think that they need to target a running back, a wide receiver or two, which they are targeting guys, and don't be surprised if they bring in a couple receivers. That is, and I think this team is really looking good. I've already said that I view this team as more complete than the teams in years past, and my confidence keeps growing in that sentiment. So you guys let me know on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you love this transfer? I'm at a 9, right? The only reason it's not a 10, because we haven't seen him play yet. But I love the thought. I love the addition. I love his background. So let's move on to the NFL draft. I've been calling Shedeur to the Saints for about a month or two now. I had Ross Jackson on from Locked On Saints the other day, and we talked about this. The Saints seem like a perfect fit. Well, now the Saints have a quarterback opening, and we'll talk about it. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so that way you don't miss out on the moment of the coverage, of course. Let's talk about the New Orleans Saints, right? They have a lot going on for them. They have Chris Olave, Brandon Cooks. They have Shaheed, Alvin Kamara, a decent offensive line, veteran defense that Cam Jordan says could be the top two, if they're clicking. And they don't have a quarterback because Derek Carr is possibly out for the season with a shoulder injury. Now, I was saying that the Saints were I just punched my microphone. I was saying that the Saints were a possible landing spot for Shedeur simply because other teams like the Giants, they need to win now, and I don't feel like that's fair to put that pressure on a rookie quarterback. The Browns, it doesn't seem like they're going quarterback anymore. And then the Raiders and Seahawks both made big investments this offseason. And so you just like sort of start crossing out teams, and it's like, okay, the Saints, Derek Carr is obviously very expensive, but he's old, injury prone, obviously, now that we like another injury, but he's friendly. He's willing to mentor. And so I thought the perfect scenario for Shedeur was go to the Saints, be mentored by Shedeur, be pushed by Spencer Rattler or Jay Kane or whoever they decide to keep as that third quarterback, and make it work, right? Make them figure it out. And I think having that opportunity to learn behind a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback would have helped Shedeur. Now, he still has the opportunity to learn from Derek Carr if the Saints draft him. It's just he's going to be thrust into the action possibly. Or they could go with Spencer Rattler and sort of use Derek Carr as a coach, and Shedeur will be behind Spencer. But I think Derek Carr's latest injury sort of, I don't know. I think it sort of expedites my thought process on Shedeur going to the Saints. And Coach Prime is clearly right there with me because Louis Riddick tweeted the 9th pick, which is what the Saints have, is going to be all kinds of interesting, right? That's where Shedeur could go. And then Coach Prime tweets the eyeball emojis where it's like, so we'll see what happens. I really like Shedeur to the Saints. I think they have the weapons. I love Kellen Moore as a head coach. I think having a young head coach who I don't think he's going to be given like 10 years to figure it out, but he's not going to be fired unless he's like out here kicking people like Urban Meyer. So you have a young offensive-minded head coach who gets the best out of quarterbacks. You have a team full of weapons. You have a couple veterans that can help lead and guide you. And I think New Orleans is one of my favorite franchises just because they're always a no-nonsense type of group. They're a fan base that I always enjoyed rooting for. Drew Brees, maybe Shedeur can link up with him, learn from him. And I think it takes the pressure off of Shedeur having to be the guy right away. Even if with Derek Carr is gone, they still have Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener. And I doubt the Saints want to ride with those guys long term. But I don't think it hurts to take a quarterback early in the draft like Shedeur and then have him sit a little bit, right? I think we've seen that there's value in guys not playing right away. I think we've seen there's value in guys being able to learn behind a veteran, even if it's a younger veteran, just because thrusting guys into action doesn't always work out, right? I go through this. Bryce Young, he was kind of viewed as a sure thing as possible, and all of a sudden he was like, this is kind of gruesome or graphic, if you will. Andy Dalton's okay, but he was an Andy Dalton not getting in a car crash away from never playing for the Panthers again, and maybe being a bust, right? Bryce Young played right away, needed some time to learn. Caleb Williams had a rough rookie year. They fired his head coach, offensive coordinator. They brought in Ben Johnson, right? He needed some time to probably learn. right? Jaden Daniels is an exception. CJ Stroud is an exception. Patrick Mahomes, he sat and waited behind Alex Smith, and guess what? He turned out just okay, or just quite all right, right? So I don't think it hurts for Shedeur to sit behind someone. I think Shedeur to the Saints is really in the works, and if I'm right, I'm going to be tooting that horn. So appreciate you guys for tuning in to Locked On Buffs, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, so make sure to like, subscribe, and follow, and I will see you guys on Monday. Hope all of you have a great weekend.